love Italian food, especially Roman cuisine, with the cacio e pepe, pasta carbonara, and tender, flavorful artichokes. Mwah! Seriously, show me who doesn't love this stuff and I will do to them what the Roman Emperor probably did with anyone who disagreed with him. Can't imagine it was pleasant. So join me, dear viewer, as I prepare a Roman Jewish feast by selecting 3 dishes from Leah Koenig's Portico, Cooking and Feasting in Rome's Jewish Kitchen. Now, in honor of Rome's melting pot of Jewish communities, I'm making 3 dishes from Portico with roots in each one. Sephardic sauteed spinach with pine nuts and raisins, Libyan vegetable stew for couscous, and the Roman ghetto's very own pizza Ebraica, a cookie with dried fruit and nuts. I start with the sauteed spinach, and it's at this point that I realize I'm a dummy and I accidentally bought some spinach mixed with lettuce. Whoopsie. But hey, nobody really noticed later on, and it's still mostly spinach. The dish comes together quickly enough, toasting the pine nuts, sauteing the onions, wilting the spinach, and finishing with some raisins and lemon zest. Leah's own little addition for a touch of brightness, a flavor, and a sentiment we could all use a little more of these days. Then it's onwards to the vegetable stew. I can definitely see adding this to my weekday repertoire. All you gotta do is roughly chop up some veggies, throw them in a pot with chickpeas, add some veggie stock, and let the stew stew. And hey, while it stews, that's the perfect time to start whipping together that pizza Ebraica. I was especially drawn to making this after chatting about it with Leah for the Yiddishland podcast. She mentioned that Pope Benedict was a frequent customer of a 200-year-old kosher pastry shop that makes pizza Ebraica.
I guess he had some issues with heart disease or whatever, and needed to go on a cholesterol-free diet according to his doctors, but he had a sweet tooth, and so somebody tipped him off about the Roman Jewish ghetto, this bakery which did not use dairy, doesn't use butter at all, because they wanted things to be parve, so they could be eaten with after meat meals. And so he tried their pizza Ebraica, as someone probably brought him some, and he loved it so much that he kind of named it his official favorite dessert in Rome. And there's actually, if you go to the bakery, there is a letter from the Pope, to the bakery, that hanging on the wall that still says, you make the best dessert in Rome or something like this. Yeah, so it's Pope approved.
Perhaps the only time in history when Pope approved was actually good for the Jews. My pizza Ebraica are starting to look nice and browned on the edges, so it's time to set the table for this Roman Jewish feast. But while I do, here's Leah talking about why she sought out to write Portico.
I mean, I've been writing about Jewish food for 17 years at this point, and my last book, the Jewish cookbook, was this 425 recipe giant behemoth that was trying to encapsulate all of Jewish food, which is obviously impossible. When I finished that book and I was thinking about what I wanted to do next, my husband and I honeymooned in Rome back in 2009. We went on a tour, and I wanted to write about the food of the Roman Jews. And while we were there, I just absolutely fell in love with the community. I knew Ashkenazi cuisine, I knew Sephardi cuisine a little bit already. I mean, I was early in my career, and I knew Middle Eastern Jewish cuisine, but this was something totally different, totally its own thing, incredibly delicious. When I was thinking, what community do I want to focus on for this book after the Jewish cookbook, I was like, I want to do Rome because it's the community that has meant so much to me, and I want to give something back.
And on that lovely sentiment, it's time to give something back to my stomach, starting with the sauteed spinach with pine nuts and raisins. And obviously very spinachy. Well, I was a little worried I wouldn't like the sogginess, or at least it looks a little soggy, but it's definitely offset. You get the little toasted pine nuts. And that contrasts nicely with the raisins. At least the sweetness of the raisins. Now we go over to the main. That one I actually do have bookmarked. And this is a vegetable stew for couscous. I feel like I'm reading a bedtime story. And I wanted to make this because it's apparently, according to Leah, and I believe her, it's everyday home cooking for Rome's Libyan Jews. And it's a nice looking vegetarian dish. Something that seemed like it'd be pretty easy to whip together on a weekday night, which is what I'm doing. Just chop up the vegetables, put it in, stew it for a while. So a little bit of time for the stewing, but but pretty simple to put together. Let's have a bite. Yeah, this tastes very North African to me. Reminds me of like a tagine in Morocco or something. And I probably put a little extra cinnamon there because I like some cinnamon. And I'm definitely getting that. Happy with that. Now, last but not least, this one I was very curious about. It is called the Pizza Ebraica dried fruit and nut bar cookies. Interesting. I like it. It's crunchy. It's not sweet, which I like. I'm not a big sweet tooth guy. I like this. I will admit I was a little skeptical at first, mixing of the, the nuts and the candied cherries and all these things. It just seemed like an interesting combination. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I made them, and I will eat them all. All right, we did it. That was my Roman Jewish feast. If you enjoyed that, you can check out my conversation with Leah on the Yiddishland podcast, available wherever you get your podcast, as they say on basically every podcast. And yeah, go ahead and like, subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know which cookbook I ought to cover next.